Hello, students. How are you all? I know in this lockdown, we all are stranded in our homes and you people are busy in completing the assignments. But what can be done? This is the need of the hour. So stay home, stay safe, and obey your parents. Today, in this video, we are going to learn the second chapter of history, that is growth of nationalism. So open your reader. First, we will check the syllabus. Factors promoting the growth of nationalism, economic exploitation, repressive colonial policies, socio-religious reform movements, brief mention of contribution of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Jyotiba Phule, and role of the press. So total four factors are there. In the Indian Association, Surendranath Banerjee, and the East India Association, Dadabhai Naoroji, as precursors of the Indian National Congress should be highlighted. Immediate objectives of the Indian National Congress, the first two sessions and their presidents should be mentioned. So this is your syllabus. Before we begin learning, let us recapitulate what we did in the previous chapter, the First War of Independence 1857. There we did in detail the different causes and the consequences of the revolt. Causes like economic, socio-religious, political, etc. And some causes became the base for the rise of nationalism also. So in this chapter, again we will learn some of those causes. Introduction. One of the most distinguishing features of the second half of the 19th century was the birth of national awakening in India. Distinguishing means something different, something unique. So, the most unique feature was the birth of national awakening in India. It originated from the concepts. Concept means ideas. From the ideas of nationalism and right of self-determination. Right of self-determination means right to take your own decisions. Initiated by the French Revolution. Now, this revolution started in 1789 and came to an end in 1799. Then the next one was the socio-religious reform movements in India as an offshoot of modernization introduced by the British in India. And the third one was a reaction of the Indians to the British colonial policies. The political awareness generated by these trends gave birth to various political associations. This trend culminated. Culminated, you know the meaning. We have read this word in the previous chapter also. Culminated means climax, end, result. So the result was the establishment of the Indian National Congress in 1885. Very important. You have to underline that what happened in 1885. In the year 1885, Indian National Congress was established, which marked the formal beginning of the organized national movement in India. Factors promoting growth of nationalism. Now, this is the definition of nationalism, so underline. Nationalism refers to the feeling of oneness and common consciousness that emerges when people living in a common territory share the same historical, political, and cultural background, have the same language, cultural values, and consider themselves as one nation. So, in short, you can say nationalism refers to the feeling of oneness. Oneness means unity, united. And this feeling comes when they live in a common territory, same area, they have same historical, political, cultural background, they have same language, their cultural values are same. So, the meaning of nationalism is unity or feeling of oneness. Though India had a long history going back to many centuries, it was never a one nation and comprised many kingdoms. There were times when vast portions of the Indian subcontinent came under the rule of one empire. But the loyalty of the people was towards a particular king or kingdom. But still, the people of India, they were still loyal to their own particular king, their ruler. The modern feeling of nationalism underlined was lacking among them. It emerged during the British rule mainly as a reaction to the British rule and the clash of interests of the Indian people with those of the British. Underline, and it emerged. It stands for feeling of nationalism. This feeling emerged when Britishers came here and they started ruling here in India. As we have read in the previous chapter, India resisted. Resisted means opposed the British rule from its very beginning. But this resistance, this opposition, was highly localized and scattered. It was undertaken by the deposed. Deposed means overthrown, removed chieftains, their descendants, and relations, zamindars, ex-soldiers, and officials of the Indian states. The culmination of traditional opposition to British rule came with the First War of Independence. And what was the result? What was the climax? What was the end of traditional opposition to the British rule? The result was the First War of Independence, the revolt of 1857. Although it failed to achieve its objective, it inspired the Indians to resist the foreign power and make a determined struggle for the country's freedom. Thus, the very nature of foreign rule resulted in nationalistic sentiments rising among the Indians and produced conditions conducive for the rise. Conducive means conditions which are good. So, they produced conducive conditions for the rise and growth of a powerful national movement. The second half of the 19th century witnessed the emergence of national political consciousness and strong feelings of nationalism. There were many factors which contributed to the growth of nationalism in India. These included the following. Now we will start with the factors. Economic exploitation, first factor. There were many factors that aroused opposition to British rule. Economic exploitation, underlined, was the most important among them. The Indians realized that the general aim of the British policies in India was to promote their own interest at the cost of welfare of India. Underline, now the Indians, they realized that what was the main aim or motive of the Britishers. Their main aim was to promote their own interests at the cost of welfare of Indians. The economic discontent, dissatisfaction of different sections of society was as follows. Number one, the peasants, farmers. They were the main victims of British colonial policy. Underline, so they were the main victims of their policies. The government took away a large part of their produce in the form of land revenue and other taxes. These exorbitant, very high, too much. They were forced to pay heavy taxes, led the peasants into the clutches of landlords and money lenders. So finally, what happened when they failed to give taxes? They were in the grip, they were into the clutches of landlords and money lenders. Second, the artisans and craftsmen. The British economic policies were against the interests of Indian trade and industry. The English East India Company used its political power to destroy Indian handicrafts and industry. India became a source of raw material, underline. So India was actually a source of raw materials for the industries of Britain and a market for its finished products. So source of raw material and then market for its ready-made finished products. This policy crippled the artisans and the craftsmen as they were devoid of their sources of livelihood. Devoid means they were without their sources of livelihood. They were not having any sources of livelihood. Then the third one, the working class. The growth of modern industries led to the birth of new social class in India, the working class. So the third one was a new group, new social class known as the working class. They were exploited by the factory owners who were generally Englishmen. Although they formed a small section of population, or they stands for the working class. They were actually small in number, but they represented a new social outlook. Their outlook and interests were very broad, covering whole of India. So they were representing whole of India, though their factories were located in cities. All these factors made their political thinking far more significant than their numerical strength. Though they were less in number, but they have a strong political thinking. Far reaching effect was there later on. Then next, the educated Indians. The only employment available to the educated Indians was government service, in which competition was high and chances of promotion were bleak. Bleak here means very, very less. They had hoped that British capitalism would help to develop India's productive forces as it had done for Britain. Instead, they found that British policies were keeping India economically backward. Thus, all sections of the society felt that their economic salvation here means freedom, lay in freeing themselves from the British rule. So underline, so all the sections of the society felt that their economic salvation. Now this word, I think so, you must have read last year in the chapter Jainism, Buddhism, salvation, moksha. So here salvation must be clear to you, economic salvation lay in freeing themselves from the British rule. To achieve this objective, the Indian people had to come together on a national platform. So to achieve this objective, what was the objective? To make India free from Britishers, to throw them out of India. And for this, the Indian people, underline, had to come together on a national platform. In the process, the spirit of nationalism received a powerful stimulus. And in this, which spirit helped them? The spirit of nationalism. And nationalism means the feeling of oneness. So today, we will stop here only. Again, we will continue in our next video. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you.